Everybody. Welcome to the DC Scrum user group. As always, we are here to connect, share, and learn about all things Agile and Scrum. I'm going to make a few quick announcements and we will get started. So, okay, folks, I think that's it. We are going to move on and introduce our speaker for today. Sandeep is joining us as he just kind of introduced himself from Capital One. He's an Agile delivery lead there, and I'll let him introduce himself as he talks about Beyond Safe and Scrum and trying to figure out what the right delivery framework is for your team. All right, and with that, I'm going to stop sharing. Welcome, Sandeep. Glad to have you. And you can switch and share your screen.
Sure. All right. Do you all see my screen?
Looks good.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your lunch and joining this session. I'm really excited to be here and share my learnings about how to select right delivery framework for your product's development need. As Fadi already mentioned, my name is Sandeep Paudel. I'm an RTE and Agile program lead at Capital One Bank. Before I want to proceed with my presentation, I would like to inform you that I'm an Agile framework agnostic person. So I'm not speaking in support or against any Agile framework. However, I believe that my opinions, learnings, and experiences will help you make informed decisions for your teams. So I already touched upon this one. Capital One is hiring. If any one of you are interested, please reach out to me or reach out to our Capital One career space, and then you should be able to get whatever you are looking for. Let's go to the agenda. At a high level, I'm going to cover three things. The first is understanding the product lifecycle and its importance in software products. Second thing that I'm going to cover is I would like to introduce Cynefin Framework, which I have been found very helpful to identify the right delivery framework. And finally, we'll wrap up this presentation by knowing if we need to scale Agile all the time. Last but not the least, I will take questions at the end of my presentation so that we'll have enough time for Q&A. Okay, so let's look at one thing I would like to share with you is the State of Agile report. The State of Agile report is the most comprehensive and sought after Agile report that is available in the market. I studied one set of metrics called State of Agile framework. This report started coming in 2007, and I looked at three data points: 2007 and how we were doing with Agile framework, State of Agile framework in 2014, and the latest report that we have is for 2020. 2021 is going to be published anytime soon, maybe this month or next month, but that's not there yet. And if any one of you want to go and research this report, it is freely available in the internet. So you can search for a State of Agile report and you should be able to find since it was published until the recent publication. So what you can see here is Scrum was used by 40% of the organization in 2007. Right now, Scrum still dominates with 58% of market share in all the organizations that do software development all across the world. In 2007, there were some frameworks like XP, DSDM, which were significantly present. Their presence was significant, but right now, if you look at 2020, they are almost gone. They are like on non-existence. The other most popular framework after Scrum that is highly independent is Kanban, with 7% of market share. So, and you can see that in 2007, only 14% of hybrid model were in use. And right now, if you count the hybrid custom, Scrum Ban, and other XP Scrum hybrid, they are contributing to 27% of the hybrid model. So people are not using one model or one exact framework, but they are using combination of various frameworks, and that is rising. So this finding kept me thinking, and I started doing further research, and I was curious to find out if Scrum is used in the right settings or the context. One of the reasons I'm motivated to put this presentation is because of this, and we'll try to explore, we'll try to explore that answer in today's presentation. So first of all, whenever we want to go and try to find out the right delivery framework for our teams, we need to understand what product we are developing and how the product lifecycle looks. As you know, in most of the Agile training or any engineering training that you go, we are taught about the software development lifecycle. However, relevance of software development lifecycle is now limited to just few weeks or months because of the iterative and incremental nature of Agile development. And most of the organizations are moving away from project development process to product development. So that also actually reiterates that how product lifecycle is very important. Every product goes through a life cycle similar to a human being. Like they are born, they are introduced, they grow, they mature, and they decline. At some point in time, they all have to decline, or they would be gone. Let's look at the introduction stage. What happens at the introduction stage? During the introduction stage, we may not need any Agile framework because teams are already Agile. They just have a couple of team members. Communication and feedback loop is very quick, and interaction is very frequent. They're already living with the Agile mindset, right? Frequent interaction, so feedback, they can make decisions. They are very much empowered. So when the product enters into the growth phase, it is the most important stage where we might need to think about, what is the right way of developing this product in this growth stage so that we can keep the momentum going. Okay. Many features are added, enhancements are requested, usage of the product is at the peak, and responding to user feedback is most important. This is also the moment where a product can make or break. If the product is able to meet the users, if product is able to meet the user's expectation, and if it is the product of its first kind, the organization will benefit from the fast mover advantage and helps the organization to achieve the competitive edge from its competitors. So what happens during the maturity stage is, users adoption slows. There is a plateau that they hit, and it starts to mature. There are not many users, but much focus will be in the maintenance stage. So what also you can do is, if you are the organization that didn't capture the new product development momentum, or you are not able to offer that solution, at this time you can also go and buy some of the out-of-the-box solution. Some of the problem that you are trying to solve in your organization, it might be too late. There could be other competitors in that situation. You go and bring COTS product, or you go and try to see if there is any open source product available. That is the maturity stage. And during the decline stage, all these products that you have built, they will ultimately decline. They will become a legacy. Even if you are using AI and machine learning product development, if you are even building products using AI or machine learning, at some point in time in the future, they will turn out to be a legacy product. So now let's look at how different organizations use their resources. Different organizations, they would like to invest a lot of money. They will give you a lot of resources during the introduction and the growth stage, right? And during maturity stage of the product, focus of the organization will be to just maintain that platform and see, how much money or how much revenue you can gather. And when your user base starts declining, you are not able to solve the problem, and there are other competitors coming, the organization will not even invest anything. They'll try to divest that money to some other opportunities, and they will just keep until this product leaves. So however, right, with this product lifecycle, how the different stages of product lifecycle looks and what the organization strategy is at the different stages, still the question lies, how do I select the right delivery framework for my development teams? So before that, now we need to, the first thing that we have to understand is the product lifecycle. In what stage of the product lifecycle my product that I'm building is, because it is very rare that as an Agile coach, Scrum Master, delivery lead, you get opportunity to start a project and then take it to the end. You might have to come and then support your teams at any point of this product lifecycle. So let's look at what category is your product. Okay.
Hey, Sandeep, this is Amol from Capgemini. When you talked about the product lifecycle, the product in that context is any solution, right? Whether it is a software solution or a process solution or a business model or anything like an organizing model. I mean, are you talking about product as a solution that serves a specific need? And are you talking about product only in terms of an IT product, or was there any other process that were associated as part of that product?
Yeah, Amol, a really good question. At this time, I'm only talking about the software product that solves some business problems.
So, and it may or may not be like a product that is, it may be just be a software solution, right? You're just kind of genericizing a software solution as a product.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
I'm going to jump in and just remind everybody, this is a lunchtime session, so if you can keep your questions till the end, that will be helpful because we have to wrap up exactly at 1 p.m. on the
Understood, and sorry about that.
No worries. Thanks for the call.
So now let's look at what category is your product, right? So the first one I would, I would let you know why I categorize this product this way in my next slide. But the first category I would say is you might be working in a product category, something called chaotic. It is a legacy or a mainframe product. For example, there's some of the type of products that were in the decline stage of your product lifecycle. They have a spaghetti architecture. No one knows how different things are connected. New option is not available, so organization is actually keeping this type of products or replacing this type of products is very, very expensive. And they are in this type of products. The engineers or the product managers, program managers, whoever work in this type of products are always in firefighting mode. For example, let me give you an example. I was once working for a global distribution system company. That basically is a database of airline, rental car, and hotels all around the world. And sites like Kayak, Expedia leverage this system. System was built 50, 60 years ago. We didn't have a staging environment. And if something is broken, it was very harder to fix. The only fix was through trial and error, and that also in production. So that was the type of product that I'm talking about. So now let's talk about something that is obvious. So when we say obvious is you already can predict what you are developing because there is a repeatable cycle, and it is something like a routine software development with few customization. Like a few years ago, I worked for a healthcare IT company, and it used to build applications for state Medicaid customers. Basically, its client were state government, and they already had a portal, and the state government started asking them for Android and iOS apps for their members because the phone usage for their customer base had gone up. Company had experience of building iOS and Android apps for some other projects, and the state government was asking some of the features that were available in the portal to come as an iOS and Android apps. For example, like insurance, ID card, providers, hospital, claim status, coverage like this. And they started building it. They built for one state, let's say state of Michigan, and the same thing could be replicated for state of Iowa, DC, Pennsylvania, or thing. There was not much of complexity associated. Another category of product that I would like to share is called complicated, where this is not something that you have a UI or you can take a regular feedback from the users. It is something like backend system you are developing. For example, you might be moving your application database to a data warehouse into a data lake, and then there is a streaming data platform that takes to the data warehouse, and then you can visualize whatever data that you need. There is no end user or customer that directly uses it, and the flow of different pieces of work might be very important. And another situation that I can think of, situation becomes very complicated, is let's say you are an enterprise application development team, And then you get requests from different areas all around the company. For example, marketing, accounting, also HR, and then you have to manage the competing priorities among these things. So that is a situation which I would consider as a complicated product development or the complicated product approach. Another one is called complex. So what are some of the characteristics of complex product is you don't know what you are building. You know what solution you have to come up with, but you don't know how to build it, and you don't know where you are headed. But you can experiment, and sometimes you fail. It is perfectly fine to fail, and learn from it. An organization is willing to sponsor for you even if you fail. Over the period of couple of months, a clear pattern emerges, and you start figuring out things. And it is actually very much applicable to the advanced technology, new and advanced technology like autonomous vehicle, blockchain, AI, ML applications, where this industry is just coming up. You can't learn from any other competitors. You have to do something on its own. So think of it: what product category your product, your teams are developing, and also take into consideration the product lifecycle I discussed earlier in the previous slide. So after this, I would like to introduce you to Cynefin Framework. So based on Cynefin Framework, the Cynefin Framework was introduced to the world by Dave Snowden in 1999. It was very much tested in social science and government. So many people in Agile, many Agile coaches since 2007, when Cynefin Framework, article about Cynefin Framework was published on Harvard Business Review, they started applying it to our Agile world in the software development product. And based on this Cynefin Framework, what they suggest is for situation when you are in a complex product development situation, right, where right answers can't be found at all. Rather, there is a pattern that emerges, and you have to experiment, and it is safe to fail. You have to probe first, sense, and respond. I would suggest that some framework like Scrum or XP are useful. And this is a situation where we should be going and trying to use where experimenting framework like Scrum. So now let's go what complicated situation is. Complicated context contains multiple right answers, right? Though there is a clear relationship, there is also a clear relationship between cause and effect, and not everyone can see it. In this context, what you have to do is you have to sense, you have to analyze what many people are saying, and then you have to respond them. You have enough time to plan. You can find out something, the cause and effect relationship, and the flow could be more important. Like need for analysis is more important at this point in time. So some lean framework or lean framework similar to any lean framework like Kanban comes to play in this type of situation when it is a complicated process. So now let's see what are the characteristics of obvious product development process. Like it is characterized by stability. You can predict the cause and effect relationship, and that is clear to everyone. This is a repetitive process. You know the right answer, and you are in the realm of known. Many things are known. So what I would suggest is, in this situation, even traditional waterfall would come handy. Why I'm saying is that when I say waterfall, I don't want you to leave the agile mindset and start doing waterfall. When I say waterfall, is things are predictable. You don't have to necessarily complicate the process. You don't need to have those many people and processes and ceremonies that you have to do. If things can be done in a lightweight fashion, you don't have to employ any agile framework. But you don't leave the agile mindset. Like continuous feedback, talking to the people, respecting the feedback of the users, that is always necessary. Having agile mindset is always necessary, but it is not necessary that you need to either Scrum, Kanban, or some other frameworks that are already in the market. So keeping that in mind, you can just have, what are the tasks we need to complete, and you can just check in those tasks. You can check with your customers and make sure that those works are get done, right? Because things are very obvious. It's not that you are complicated, you are operating in complex or continuous situation. However, now you might be thinking, what would be the right situation in chaotic? Because in chaotic situation, think about those mainframe solutions, mainframe products, where things are unknown, right? No one knows what's happening. Searching for the right answer is pointless. The relations between cause and effect are impossible to determine because they shift constantly because they are unmanageable, very much chaotic. So in this context, you have to first of all jump in, right? You have to do a trial and error because there is nothing that your application development team or developers can do. So what I would say is there is no framework that we can suggest. The only thing that we can suggest to the organization is they should try to replace this type of product development initiative and the investment that they're doing by replacing a new product. And when it comes to new product, they can employ all other frameworks that are in existence. This is about the Cynefin framework and how we can apply Cynefin framework to build our delivery framework for our teams. However, you might say, hey, what if I don't know what the product category of the product we are building is? Because I feel like sometimes we are in chaotic, sometimes we are in complex, in complicated, obvious. I don't get sense of how to apply Cynefin framework. Then if you are running into that situation, then that is called a disorder. That is called a disorder situation. In that situation, you have to minutely analyze each pieces of these four contexts and see which characteristic is mostly predominant. This way, you have to break out and see which is most predominant, and then you'll employ that one framework. If it is mostly complex, then you'll use the complex frameworks. For example, Scrum or XP. If it's complicated, you'll try to use Kanban. And if things are obvious, if majority of the things are obvious, then you might want to see, even if a traditional way of software development is helpful. However, you have to have an agile mindset. Let me give you an example. Right, I was presenting this to a leader at one of my organizations in the past, and they told me that, hey, how would you do this for a PMO level, right? So a product management office, or you might be working in an engineering team where you have a portfolio management office, or in some of the organizations still they say a project management office. Now you go to the head of this organization which lead your agile initiatives or delivery initiatives, maybe VP of engineering or product management, project management. And one of them asked me, okay, this is the situation. You have been working in this situation. Give me the one framework that is useful for most of my teams. Then what I did was I applied the Cynefin framework here, this situation. I actually dissected the nature of the product that they were developing. And finally, I suggested a framework, and this was a lean agile Kanban framework with classes of service, because the products were not very complex, but they were requiring new product development, but they were not very complex or not very complex to build. And balancing flow of different pieces of work was very important, right? There were some things they were very much expedited, right? There were some bugs, there are some production bugs, and they had to work on it immediately. And nowadays, most of these agile teams, they are also in CI/CD DevOps pipeline. Then what they do is, they also need to maintain their deployments. They also they need to keep their lights on when it comes to managing their applications. So there was significant amount of work where they had to do maintenance. There were also some fixed date work, like there were some work that was required by their CIO or some of the senior leadership, and they had certain fixed date that they have to finish it by. And also, they had a new feature development, which were more of not complex. They were not complex, but more of complicated. So this was one framework that I suggested, and they were able to use it. So now let's look at the same report that I showed you in the beginning, which is State of Agile. What we are going to do here is, let's see what is the state of Agile report when it comes to scaling Agile? As most of us know, even for the scaling Agile, SAFe is dominant like the way Scrum is dominant in the Agile framework. In the scaling Agile framework, SAFe. Scrum of Scrum is also one of the ceremony of SAFe, but there are many organizations, like 15-16% of the organization that is Scrum of Scrum as only their scaling Agile or scaling delivery software delivery framework. There are also so many frameworks that people use, or they don't have a name, or they just build it for their organization. And there are also a lot of other scaling Agile framework that are popping up. For example, large scale Scrum, discipline Agile, enterprise Scrum, lean management, they're coming. However, before we want to go ahead and scale Agile, let's see, do we really have to scale Agile? Okay. First of all, let's see, are we doing vertical and horizontal integration? So when I say vertical integration, do we have upstream and downstream teams for a product or for a product line? And nowadays, many organizations are building platforms. Like, do they have multiple teams, upstream, downstream, mainstream teams that are building these products? And is there an integration happening in a real-time scenarios or during the every deployment? For example, in my current organization, we are a credit card company. Capital One is a credit card company. There's a lot of vertical integration going on. Like, the marketing company sends out these emails to so many people's emails and then mails to so many people who are qualified to apply for credit card. So when these people open up the mails and they apply for the credit cards, there is an eligibility criteria. There's an eligibility team that checks out whether we should approve this credit card for these teams or not. And there is a decisioning mechanism, whether it's a fraud or not. Okay, if someone is trying to cheat us. So there's a decisioning mechanism that does the fraud a lot. And finally, when someone gets approved for a credit card, then there is a fulfillment team that sends out the real metal card or the plastic card to our customers. So there is a lot of integration. When we are adding new feature in this product line, then all of them have to come together and work. So there's an integration happening. An example of horizontal integration is you have a product. Now you are building that product. You know that this product is going to be really very popular among your users. You have been getting that feedback. You started with your portal, with a web application. Now you want to launch iOS and Android at the same time. So you have a similar features that are being built all across these platforms. Then these are called horizontal integration. So we have to be careful whether we have vertical or horizontal integration happening or not. And that might be the situation when we have to make scaling decision. So there could be a situation where there are no integrations, right? There is no strong interrelationship among teams or the products line. What we are doing is, what we can see is in most of the organization, we have a similar set of tools, like let's say a CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, has all software products related to marketing, but they may not be interrelated. Or maybe HR has similar products or software products related to HR, but then they may not be interrelated. However, what we tend to do is we put all these tools together and we do PI planning and try to do how we can scale our Agile, because we might want to generate some common metrics all across the number of teams and then present it to leadership. If you are doing scaled Agile, or if you are scaling Agile just for the sake of scaling when there is no integration, then that might be the situation where they may not be a good candidate for scaling Agile. Also, other things that we need to So other thing that I would like to consider is, if you can achieve your goals with a single team, do not scale, right? You have a single team and it cannot deliver effectively using Agile principle and practices. I think we need to succeed with the single team first. And we should not be scaling Agile just for the sake of bringing uniformity or collecting common set of metrics. And for every items that you have asterisk here, I have borrowed this from Scaling Agile Manifesto, with some of our friends at Excel I have put together, and I found them useful during my practice. So you can find that in scalingagilemanifesto.org as well. So during my analysis, what I felt is when you look at the different product category, and if you want to scale up, if it is a complex product development, if you are building one complex product with multiple teams that are building that product, and you definitely have to use Scrum in a complex product category situation. That is what Cynefin Framework, based on the Cynefin Framework, we can recommend. So the best framework could be a large scale Scrum, because this tells us that, oh, you have a one product backlog, all of you work from one product backlog, all of you come together for your release planning, and then you work. If you're on a complicated situation where there are different organizations have to come together, there's a lot of analysis that is required. Maybe the lean portfolio part of SAFe can come up very handy when it comes to scaling up the complicated product development initiative. When things are obvious, I think we have to scale out. What does scale out means is, scale up means we keep multiple, we have multiple teams building the same products. Scale out means we actually go and have multiple teams. We create the agile mindset, we create the agile culture, but they don't necessarily have to come together and work together and have to plan together. That's scaling out. And if you are like struggling with, we have a different category of product, as I was giving example previously, where my leadership had different products category, and they wanted to have a uniform product. Then you can still, I would say that is the mixed category or the disorder category based on the Cynefin. And you can either use Scale Agile, or also PMI has come up with another framework they have acquired. It's called Discipline Agile, which I have been trying to employ, and it is really good. What that a Discipline Agile framework does is it gives you a pragmatic view of what you should do. It gives you a number of tool set, and you can pick and choose different framework and different tools and metrics from that things. It is not very prescriptive like LACE or SAFe. Another thing that I would like to inform you or make you aware is, if you are trying to scale your Agile, learn from Spotify. Okay, so what Spotify does is, their culture was very important during their growth stage. Spotify is a Swedish music company. I think we all have Spotify on our phone. What they did was, okay, the culture was very important. They didn't want to disrupt the culture, even though their product adoption was increasing. So what they did was, they came up with a new scaling Agile framework like Squad, Tribe, Trio, Alliance. They have a guild, all this type of thing. Why they came up with this one and build their own Agile framework is because they didn't want to be disruptive of their culture. So whenever we are thinking of any scaling Agile framework for our organization, we should be very much careful if it is going to be disruptive, it is going to be helpful or not. Because if you are disrupting something, if people are demotivated, if culture is going to be broken into pieces, then whatever type of scaling Agile framework you have, that is not going to work. And we have to put a lot of thought when it comes to building a framework. However, there were organizations who are trying to copy Spotify, and there are studies that they have not been successful. And right now, Spotify is not in that growth mode. They have actually matured. And I hear from some of our speaker or leaders in Agile space that Spotify is not even, this Tribe engineering model even is not used at Spotify at this time, because they have a different need. But when they were in growth stage, when culture was more important, this really worked very well. Yeah, with this, I come towards the end of my presentation, and I would like to open up for questions if anyone of you have any questions for me.
Yeah, so hey Sandeep, this is Niranjan here.
Yeah, Niranjan.
I really like the presentation, but just a question around that selection of framework, that slide you brought up. How did you arrive to the decision of picking up the framework for a particular product category? Like if the product is complex, then go for less. Product is complicated, then go for SAFe or SAFe LPM. So what was the thought process behind that selection?
So when you have the complex, so if you go back to my presentation, I gave a framework how to select the framework for the team level, right? If you are building one product, if you have one team, then it is complex, then you are going with Scrum there. because that is what Cynefin Framework closely matches to the Scrum framework, because Scrum is experimental, right? Over the period of time, you experiment, you fail, you learn. There is some trend that comes up, and then you again, and then build in an iterative and incremental fashion. So that is the reason how I came up with that. When you are working in a complex situation, you go with less, because it is a large scale Scrum. And I looked at less. I studied less, and I also experimented with some of my teams in some of my projects, where I try to do safe for complex situation. I try to do less for complex situation, and I realized that less was more applicable in a complex situation, and when we were using Scrum. Did that help?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Sandeep. Thank you so much.
Sandeep.
Hi, Adam.
Thank you. I put there in the chat, do you have any experience with Scrum at Scale or Nexus? I noticed that neither of those two are up here.
Thank you so much for that thing. I have not used Nexus and Scrum at Scale, but what I have found is Scrum at Scale. I did some research about Scrum at Scale, and I found that their S1, S2, S3 model up to S3, up to S2, it is up to the program level. I think it closely resembles with the SAFe. Right. So okay. You have Scrum 1, like, which are the teams, like S1, and then you have the S2, which is like team of teams come together, and that was at the same. But if you want to scale up beyond the program level, maybe up to the portfolio level, I have not found even one framework that is applicable. I have found chaos, whatever you do it. So think of it like up to a program level or a small portfolio level, we can scale up really well. But I have to explore what we have to use if an entire organization has to go agile and they have to use one framework.
That's fair. Thank you for answering.
So Sandeep, this is Amol. I had the question typed out on chat if you're following through. So
yeah,
I mean, I can read.
Sure. Could you please?
So contextually, let's say there's an agile guru present, or a consultant that was hired by an organization to look at their organization and say, oh, look, this is really complicated. We don't know how to proceed. And the specialist says, oh, this looks like it's a complicated thing, and you really need to deploy a safe framework in order to be successful. And let's say there are a couple of different endeavors that the organization is vying to achieve over the period of, let's say, the next 3 quarters. And they hadn't, for example, in this case, baked into their planning the aspect of training an entire organization on SAFe and getting the team players and all the leaders onboarded on this journey. How have you seen this play out? If you have, in fact, I'm not saying that you will, or if you have any perspective on it, have you seen this play out in organizations where they've not baked this into the planning section, and now they suddenly have to take on SAFe, and how has this affected their readiness to take on something as big?
Really good example here, Amol, and I think most of the organizations do agile in similar context or similar situation what you're explaining. My suggestion is that becomes very disruptive. Like if you have like top level management and they say that, hey, we are going SAFe, start planning the day SAFe. That is why I was telling that culture of organization, culture of each team is different, and that becomes disruptive. And I would say that will be very much detrimental. That might be counterproductive for those type of organization if they are going to be headed from the top. However, I have seen those organizations succeed if they are going bottom up, right? They are trying to do this with 1 team, 2 teams. They can really show the value of how coming together and scaling this agile is very, very useful for one unit within technology. And then if they scale out to like multiple other technology organizations. So it's good that they are planning to take SAFe, or they have already identified they have complicated set of products, and SAFe is a really good framework, or maybe DAT they could have used. But if they are directly coming, instruction is coming from the top, from the leaders, without understanding what Agile is and how it works, and they're employing, that might not be beneficial. So I would think that if they have a really strong, Agile leader, they should be able to help to navigate this and then make it a successful use case. Otherwise, they might be actually headed for failure.
Understood. Thanks, Sandeep. I think that answers the question. I also believe what you're trying to say is that if the organization is already or organization has the culture of Agile, splattered across some teams, then it becomes easier journey for them versus just taking on something completely new.
Yeah, thank you. All right, any other questions? Okay, looks like we don't have any additional questions. Fadi, do you have anything, or we can give maybe 10 minutes back to our attendees?
I was on mute. All right.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Sandeep. That was great. I really appreciate you joining us and sharing your experience with us. Next event, on our evening event on the 21st, we're going to have Frankie Jones join us talking about using Scrum in a non-software environment, taking it from a team and spreading it across the entire organization. Hope to see you then. Thanks for joining us all. Enjoy the rest of your lunch, and see you next time. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Sandeep, thank you. This was amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much. You took time to attend this session, so I'm really grateful to all of you.